This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, next year, Gremlins celebrates its 35th anniversary, and the fellow I have on the phone with me has had a career that spanned 6 decades. And I always knew who he was, and everybody knows his face. I got the wonderful, legendary, awesome Dick Miller on the phone with me, and along with his lovely wife, Lainie Miller. How do you two do?
We're doing fine, I think.
A-okay.
Yes. Lainie, first off, I want to thank you so much for hooking this up.
Oh, my pleasure.
I have one question I wanted to ask you before I got to Dick, though. And
Okay.
Because it's interesting, because when I first contacted you and you said you wanted to come on, it reminded me of my interview with William Daniels last year from The Graduate, and I had no idea that you were part of that film. And I guess what I'd like to ask you, you were in that one scene, you worked with Dustin Hoffman in his very first movie. And, it's amazing. He's gone on to become a 2-time Academy Award winner. Did you see any of that prospect? What was it like when you first worked with him in that very first film for him?
That actually was not his first film. He did a smaller cult film, I think, called E.H. And but it was his first film of note.
Okay.
I didn't think anything except this was a job at a major studio, and Catherine Ross, I thought would be bigger than she was, but she was a wonderful lady, and I didn't think that much, except he was a nice guy, and he was married to a ballerina. That's all I remember.
Well, you know what? It was awesome to have William Daniels on last year, and awesome to have you two on here. And like William Daniels, you two have been married for so long. What's your secret?
It's a secret, so I can't share.
How did you two meet, if you don't mind me asking?
Another actor introduced us at Schwab's drugstore.
Oh, okay. Well, Dick, I gotta say, I got a list of questions down here that I proposed through an email earlier, and you worked with Roger Corman, and you worked with him in so many movies, like a dozen or so, and I was just wondering, what was your best experience with Roger, including your favorite film you did with him?
Oh, my favorite film. Favorite film has always been The Bucket of Blood. It's kind of a weird thing for an actor. It's like Boris Karloff doing Frankenstein or Charles Lawton doing Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's a part that comes along just once in a while, once in a lifetime. And if you're the kind of actor who likes to do many parts, that was it. So Bucket of Blood stands out.
Yes.
I don't know.
No, keep going. What was you saying?
Well, I was just going to say, what was the other question about Roger experience?
Yeah.
I know the guy over 60 years, and he's very unemotional. I don't find anything about him that recalls to memory a great story. I do think there was one time we were doing a picture called Long Ride Home, a Western, and Roger, unfortunately, got fired. I've never been on a picture where a director got fired.
Oh.
And I remember the suits, as we call them, came out to do it. I never knew why they did it, but I think it was something to do with the money. The budget was going over or something. Anyway, I was going to go up to see him that night when the suits were there, and the wardrobe man said to me, "I don't think you ought to go up there. They're hanging out. They'll make it rough for you." And I said, "Well, I got to find out." And I went up there and it was sure enough there was a guy up there. He says, "You want this picture?" I I said, so far. And I went and saw Roger, and I said, how you feeling? And he said, oh, well, we'll get another one. And that was it. In 60 years, that's the only time I ever saw any emotion from him.
Well, you know what? He's done well in those 60 years, I'll say you that.
Thank you.
Yes. And of course, the documentary, that guy, Dick Miller, and of course it's pointed out that, you stole so many scenes with just having a little part, like the Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where you're selling him the guns. After Hours, one of my favorite Martin Scorsese's movie, where you're the diner owner, and Griffin Dunne and the beautiful Rosanna Arquette. And, of course, Chopping Mall, who I've done a couple of interviews from that, where you have a confrontation with a robot. You had such minimal screen time, and I was just wondering what draws you to these roles, these small roles, and what's your approach in making these performances so rich? Because, you steal a scene in just a little bit of time, and yet we remember those scenes.
Well, what draws me to him is work. In those days, it was a matter of you worked or you starved, and I don't know any actor who really turned down, except big stars occasionally, but I don't know any actor who turns down a part, no matter how small. And in between good parts, there are little parts, and you take them and you do the best you can with them. I've always felt there was a bit of honesty in every character I ever played.
Yep. Well, you get to work with some greats in these movies. Like I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rosanna Arquette. I mean, you worked with some, and of course, Martin Scorsese's casting you in that movie, After Hours. So, I mean, obviously, you've made an impression on a lot of big-time directors.
Well, in 60 years, you can work with a lot of people. Most of them are dead now, unfortunately. Roger's still alive and cooking. Mm-hmm. He's a
Thank
man.
God, so are you.
Oh, I'm kicking, all right. And Roger's always been a guy that to me loved the business. I always thought nobody can stay in a business that long and love it, not love it.
Well, what was the transition like from going from Roger Corman to Joe Dante? The similarities and differences between the two filmmakers?
Well, Roger, I was in awe of Roger when I met him. I was in awe of him for a long time until I found out he was only about a year and a half, 2 years older than me. And then all of a sudden, Joe Dante came into my life, and I was in awe of him until I realized he was about 20 years younger than me. So it was at that stage I decided to adopt Joe Dante.
Yes, and of course, Gremlins. I think that's the film I think of when your image comes up. And of course, you played Mr. Futterman. And I was wondering, what was your approach to playing this role? Because it was quite a bit bigger than a lot of roles that you played especially in the 80s and so forth.
Well, Mr. Futterman was there was no clue. Nobody told me anything. The director never said, "This is him. This is the type of part." He was just an American guy. Who drove a big plow truck, and I figured I'll take it from there, see what happens. And each scene was played with as much honesty as I could. I don't know. It seems like I always go back to the same thing. Is an honest approach is the best way to a character.
Well, one of the things I loved about Gremlins is the detail to character. Like, if Gremlins was made today, they would have made Hoyt Exton's character just the dad, I love the whole subplot, like the bathroom buddy and stuff like that. I think it made the characters so much richer and memorable, and I love the humor and elements like that. Do you actually have yourself a gremlin, or did you just leave them on the set?
Yes, we have a gremlin. I have one of the originals, and he just sits up on a huge desk and he stares down, and everybody comes into my room.
Do you have a bathroom buddy?
No, but I have from some reversible toilet paper.
Yeah. Well, I just wonder, what were your memories of Phoebe Cates? Everybody loves Phoebe Cates.
Well, I loved her too. She was a sweet little girl, and that's really about all I remember about Phoebe.
Well, she did help you not drive home under the influence.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I love that about the texture of these characters in that film. And I wanted to bring up, too, you've done so many movies, not just with Joe Dante, but he always cast Belinda Blasky. And I've had Belinda on this show 3 times, and she's planning to come on again this year. I love Belinda. And she mentioned to me when I originally interviewed her that of all the films that you and she had done together, the only movie that you're actually in a scene together is The Howling in the book scene. I'm just wondering, what were your thoughts on her?
Belinda Blasky is just one of those actresses. She is so talented, so natural. I really enjoyed working with her. I would have enjoyed working with her some more, but I guess that'll never happen now.
Well, she's still around. I'm still in touch with her. She does a lot of art. I mean, she's
I'm in touch with her, too.
Yeah, oh, she's so... I just saw one of her artworks today on Facebook, and I was like, wow, she is so talented, And, of course, working with special effects, Roger Corman, Joe Dante, movies like Gremlins and Chopping Mall. Back then, especially when you look at Gremlins in The Neighborhood, everything was... it looked like there was a lot of love gone into that compared to the CGI you see today that takes away so much. What was it like working alongside special effects in movies like Gremlins and Chopping Mall and whatnot?
I don't know. I really don't know much about special effects. It all seems to be most of that is post-production. I don't see the special effects that anybody else sees. That's you do the part. If there's anything in it that's mysterious and weird, it's done afterwards. It's all post-production.
So you had to do the scene in Chopping Mall without the robot there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the robot was real.
Yes, and...
like the Gremlins, they're real.
Yeah, I listened to the commentary track on Gremlins, and I thought it was funny when you meet Howie Mandel, and he says, "Nice to meet you, Dick." Of course, he voiced Gizmo. Yeah.
I have a picture up here I'm looking at right now. It's called Robbie the Robot.
Yes. In fact, it's interesting you bring that up because I've had Alan Arkush on here last year, and he, of course, did Rock and Roll High School, Hollywood Boulevard, and Get Crazy, which I wish they'd release on Blu-ray. I loved Rock and Roll High School. Just loved the movie, and of course, the Ramones and that. And you play, of course, the cop at the end with that line, ugly, ugly people, And, of course, P.J. Souls' lover, Day Young's been on here. And, of course, Mary Woronov and Miss Togar, the evil principal. What was it like working on Rock and Roll High School? And what were your thoughts on the Ramones?
Well, that ugly, ugly line was an ad-lib. I was pretty sure it was. I actually had a nice little speech there, and we got around to doing it. And I looked up at these people, and I just said, "They're so ugly." I said, "Ugly, ugly people." And I said, "They're going to cut this, and we'll do it again." And he said, "Print."
Did you meet the Ramones? What were they like?
Well, yeah, they're nice kids. there's not much you can say about them. They had hit records.
Yes.
They were an interesting group.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite Ramones song?
No, I didn't really like their music.
Well, what were your memories of Mary Woronov?
Mary's a good, solid actress. She's a down-to-earth, real person.
Weren't you disappointed you didn't get to storm the school?
Yeah, we worked in a few pictures together. She's good.
Oh, yeah. You remember P.J. Souls and Day Young in that? I know you didn't do scenes with them, but they were part of that big climax that you were in.
Oh, just lots of times you meet people, no matter what the script says, that you've known them all your life and everything. You meet them for the one scene, you say the few words, and that's it. You never see them again. I don't know much about her.
Okay. Well, you also did I Want to Hold Your Hand, and I love that movie. And of course, I was born in 1972, so I don't remember the heyday of the Beatles. But you were around then, and I was wondering, in looking at that movie, what were your memories of the period when the Beatles had their rise to fame?
Well, the Beatles were sensational. A startling act that came along. The music was tremendous. They were tremendous. There's not much you can say about them. I'm from a slightly different school of jazz, and I kind of reached out to the Beatles. I liked their music. I liked what they did.
Yes, absolutely. They had some good movies in there too, like Hard Day's Night, Yellow Submarine, some really good stuff in there. Yeah.
They were good.
And of course, you were also in 1941, where you get to work with Steven Spielberg, of course, who produced Gremlins. I was just wondering, do you have any memories of John Belushi, who unfortunately we lost way too soon?
Well, John Belushi, that's the one or two lines, and you're out. I knew nothing about him at the time. I knew nothing about dope, I swear. And it's a shame that we lost him. I think he was a good actor. I think he was funny. He had a really different character from anybody I've known in the business. It's a shame he went.
Yes, it is. Memories working with Steven Spielberg. I mean, wow, 1941 was a major bomb at the time, but I mean, it's kind of gained a cult following since then. But Spielberg, you've done a few pictures for.
Yeah, he's good. Unfortunately, I didn't know how big he was at the time. He was just a producer and director, and I was hired for a job, and I did it. And that was about it. I would have kissed up to him if I had known.
Well, it's funny because I interviewed Eddie Deason, and he was talking about being sick during 1941. He says one of his big memories is he went to go sleep in, he was told to go sleep in Steven Spielberg's trailer, and he said one of his big fond memories is he threw up in Steven Spielberg's toilet.
There you go.
There you go. Now, of course, the cutting room floor here. You also you worked with Quentin Tarantino playing Monster Joe in Pulp Fiction. I know he had said if there's one scene he really wanted to keep in there, but he cut it out for time, was your scene with Monster Joe, where you got to, he just loved the idea of getting you in a scene with Harvey Keitel. What was it like working with Quentin Tarantino and of course Pulp Fiction being such a big film now? What an innovative screenplay. What was that experience like?
Well, the experience was just an acting job. But had I known it was going to be such a tremendous success, I would have fought a little harder to get in there. I don't know why it was cut out. I'll tell you, despite what Quentin Tarantino says, it wasn't a matter of time. The scene was probably not much more than about 3 minutes. It could have been in. There was no limit on the time on it. That was it. I was just cut out for some reason. Other than that, I'm sure.
Al, he did mention on the DVD that it was a matter of, time, and I think the movie ran like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that, or more. Of course, I look at it this way. People sit through 3 hours of Titanic, and to me, that was boring. I mean, 3 hours of Pulp Fiction, I'm down with, especially with such creative writing,
Tarantino wrote a good picture.
Yes.
As I said, I don't blame Tarantino. Somebody maybe a little bigger than him didn't want me in the picture. I don't know why.
Well, we want you in the picture, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
That's Dick's take on it, but I actually have a different take on it.
Okay.
As a producer, I have a different take on it.
Okay.
When you're trying to sell a picture and the distributor knows that they have to be limited on time, it's not like television. They don't have to be limited that tightly. But then they just let the suits loose in the editing room, and they decide, I want 17 minutes out. They don't even look. They're blind, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. And I think it was an accident. And I kind of think that because I think that Quentin Tarantino was very embarrassed when he realized what that accident was. Because when we went to the screening, for some stupid reason, we had a problem getting in. We weren't on the list. They had called us to come to the cast and crew screening. There we were at the Directors Guild, and our name wasn't on the list. So they recognized Dick, and so fine, they let us in. So we're sitting there on the aisle, and Quentin Tarantino comes down, and he sees Dick, and he says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "What do you mean, what am I doing here? It's the cast and crew screening." He says, "You're not in it," or something like that. Was that right? Is that what he said?
He said, "Oh, you're not in it."
That's how he found out when we were at the cast and crew screening. Till that moment, he didn't know that he'd been cut.
That must be hard, getting cut from a movie, especially when you're an actor like Dick Miller. Like he's great in everything he does. I've never seen a bad performance of Dick Miller.
Everybody gets cut. I bet you everybody gets cut at least once. And if you look at 1941, there was very little left of Dick in it. He really, but you say something to somebody when it's a whole scene. And the one other thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, when you talk about Dick in the little pictures and stepping up to a bigger part with Joe Dante, Dick had actually starred in 8 movies with Roger Corman before it ever got down that low. Bucket of Blood, Sorority Girl, Confessions of a Sorority Girl, Thunder Over Hawaii. There were about 8 pictures in which he did star. So, but they were B pictures and maybe B and a half. Who knows? But they were there.
Well, everybody does get cut. I mean, Harry Dean Stanton was totally cut out of Up in Smoke. So, I mean,
right.
Yeah, but I did see the scene, and Dick Miller was great in it, and yeah.
Wonderful scene. We have it here too.
Yeah, I was going to say you've done a few conventions, Dick. What's the most interesting thing or unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Asked to sign?
Yeah.
Geez, I don't remember. I remember there was one girl who lifted up her blouse just to sign my bra. But that was it. I took a long time writing my name.
I did my first convention last year. One of my guest Canadian actors invited me to a convention in Toronto. So I hope you get down here and to that sometime. That was Horrorama, and I'm going again this year, so I'm quite excited about that. In fact,
Horrorama never invited us.
Oh, I hope sometime they do. I mean, Dee Wallace is going to be there from The Howling. And,
well, I know,
yeah.
but you know, Dick doesn't really want to do any more conventions because it's difficult for him to get on a plane. But Horrorama is really the biggest Canadian one. I understand that, and but you know, they have to be willing to pay. We don't do like Dee Wallace. She'll go anywhere, and she sells this and she sells that, and Dick is.
Speaking of selling,
okay,
I have a
commercial.
little book. How's this for a commercial? I got a book coming out.
Oh, yes, please plug that, yes.
Calum Van der Staal, he wrote a book. He's a Canadian boy, and I know they're going to love it up there. The book is titled You Don't Know Me, But You Love Me. It's about me, and that's all I can say.
Yes, it comes out here October the 1st, and there's a signing. Actually, Calum will come down, and Dick and Calum will sign at Dark Delicacies here in Burbank.
Oh, yes.
On the 2nd, on October the 2nd. Yeah, it is a Canadian author, and it is a Canadian publishing company, both out of Winnipeg.
Well, we Canadians, we like our Dick Miller.
Tell me about it. I married him, didn't I? I'm a Canadian by birth.
Oh, you're from here?
Toronto.
Oh, wow. Wow. Have you ever been up the New Brunswick way?
Never.
No? Nobody knows where we are up here.
Well, you know, we do a lot of cruising with Princess, and occasionally I look to see what's on the East Coast, and I know there's something that goes up that way, stops at St. John's. So it's possible you might get your way.
Yeah, I'm 4 hours ahead of you, so it's like after 2 here, or almost 2:30 here, and you know, so you're still enjoying your morning coffee.
That's it.
There you go. Well, you know what? I won't hold you up too much more right now, but I gotta say, you know, that book. What was the experience like in working on that book? Because you know, with
on the book, the experience was nothing. I didn't know that Calum was writing the book. He was.
He came down here 5 or 6 times.
I was about to say that until he came down and he started interviewing me, and we were talking about it. That's always interesting. You get long, long hours. You're trying to think of old stories. He's written, I understand, it's a very interesting book.
Wow. Well, yeah, and it's, of course, name the title of the book again for those that want to purchase this.
You Don't Know Me, But You Love Me. By Casey Van Staal.
No, by Calum.
By Calum
Van
Staal.
But also, I just also want to tell you, we still have That Guy Dick Miller DVDs for sale, and we appreciate it if you come to thatguydickmiller.com to buy it. If somebody's purchasing between now and the 31st of October, Dick will actually autograph the jacket for the buyers of that one. Only if it comes from our website.
Okay.
The other website that Dick has, dickmiller.net, has a beautiful gallery. On one side is all his artwork, because he's a heck of an artist.
Okay.
And on the other side is all his publicity pictures. Now I've done all the commercials.
Boy, did she do.
What's the name of the website where you can get the book with the jacket signed?
No, that's not the book with the jacket signed. That's the DVD of That Guy Dick Miller.
Oh, the DVD. Is it on Blu-ray?
No.
Okay.
There is, I'm probably going to litigate against Amazon because I think they are putting out a Blu-ray of it. I did not license them to do that. And it's a limited Blu-ray because it won't even play on Xbox.
Oh.
And they charge $2 less for that than for the DVD. So you can tell it's something they're making to order. If you order it, they make it. You know what I mean? They've stolen it. So no, the only place where there's a Blu-ray is in Germany. I have a German partner.
Okay.
And it's with German subtitles. That one is a legitimate Blu-ray. But the others, we have a very high-grade Region Zero DVD, and it's really quite lovely.
Okay. Well, here's my last question for you, Dick. Since we know you're 39 years old, what's your secret to your long life?
I don't want to reach 40.
No, is there any, like I mentioned about William Daniels earlier, your wife worked in The Graduate. He's over 90, and it's like, what do you do? Is it in your diet or whatnot that allows you to?
I don't really know. It's like, you hang in there. That's the old expression. Hang in there as long as you can. I'm going to be 90 in a couple of months, and I guess I know what it feels like to be old.
Well, you did survive the Gremlins, so I mean, you're born in Christmas. That must mean you get extra gifts.
Yeah, I'm born in Christmas. It's been a lifelong thing to hang on to it. I always used to think that everybody in the world was celebrating my birthday.
We're celebrating your birthday from now on.
Well, that would be good.
There we go.
Gremlins, it's part of it. I wasn't realizing when the picture was being made, but after it was finished, I said, "This is a Christmas picture.
Yeah.
This thing will go every year. They'll release it again." It's been holding on for 35 years. 35
years, and you almost had an accident in that film when that branch of that tree blocked off that door when that bulldozer was coming at you too.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been disastrous. There was no way of stopping the tractor. There was no way of. I got through there just in time.
Yeah, because those Gremlins do not know how to drive.
Tell me about it.
Well, Dick, I'm so honored for you and Lainie to come on here and talk to me. Like, this is such an honor for me and a thrill. And I always knew who you were, so it was not a matter of that guy, Dick Miller. I knew who you was, and I couldn't believe. I was at my brother Andrew's apartment, and he did not know your name, but when I showed the trailer for that guy, Dick Miller, he was like, "You got him?" Because, seen the Terminator and Gremlins and After Hours and Rock and Roll High School. So he was like, yeah, like people know your face.
That's it. It says, "You know me, but you don't love me."
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, really? You don't know me, but you love me. Greg, I tell you, it's a real pleasure meeting you.
It's a pleasure and honor. I was wondering before I close off if you would mind doing a plug for my show.
Okay.
It'll take him a minute, because then he's going to have to figure out how to read his own writing.
What's the place? New Brunswick?
Yep, New Brunswick, Canada.
Before that.
Oh, Python's Paradise. That's the name of the show.
Python.
Yeah, Python like the snake. Python's Paradise.
All right, we'll try it. This is Greg. This is Dick Miller for Greg Gilbert from Python's Paradise, New Brunswick, Connecticut.
Canada.
Canada.
We try once more.
I think he's getting old. I think he's turning 90 early.
Oh,
There is a New Brunswick, Connecticut.
I know there is, but that's not where the hell he is.
Yeah, I'm in Canada.
All right, we'll go again.
I am going to keep that in, though, because it was just too funny.
This is Dick Miller for Greg Gilbert. from Python's Paradise, New Brunswick, Canada.
There we go. Oh, Canada. We celebrate Dick Miller. That guy, Dick Miller. You now know him and you love him, and we're so happy and honored with everything you've done in the film industry. God bless you, Dick Miller. God bless you, Lainie Miller. And I'll keep in touch and get this out to you when she's ready. And I'll have it out to you before Christmas, I'll tell you that. I got a big back catalog, but sure.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Absolutely. God bless you both. Thank you so much.
So long.
Yep, bye-bye.